Have you ever sensed something was off about a person? An invisible weight in their presence, a feeling of unease you just couldn't explain? What if protecting your inner peace wasn't just about meditating longer, but about recognizing hidden forces that quietly steal your energy? In the silent beauty of a Zen garden, an ancient truth unfolds. Evil doesn't always shout. Sometimes it smiles. In the stillness of the Zen garden, where the air feels thick with ancient wisdom and every leaf seems to whisper silence, a timeless question gently stirs in the hearts of those who seek truth. How can one preserve inner peace in a world so full of deceit, cruelty, and hidden malice? According to the teachings of Zen and Buddhism, the world outside is often a reflection of the storms within us. And one of the greatest storms we face isn't physical. It's the people we allow into our lives. Among all the challenges along the spiritual path, perhaps one of the most essential is this: learning to recognize those who destroy harmony and feed on negativity. The Buddha once offered a striking warning. An insincere and evil friend is more dangerous than a wild beast. A beast may wound your body, but an evil friend wounds your mind. This insight, sharp and haunting, is more than just a moral lesson. It's a protective compass, an invitation to awaken, to notice, and to gently distance ourselves from those whose presence disturbs the balance of our spirit. This story reveals 9 unmistakable signs of an evil-hearted person. These aren't just theories, they are tools of discernment that can help you protect your energy and peace. One peaceful afternoon, as dragonflies danced above a calm stream, an old monk sat in meditation beneath the long shadows of an ancient tree. His face, serene like the still water before him, reflected years of quiet knowing. A traveler appeared, his steps weary, eyes filled with confusion. "Master," he said, "there are people around me who leave me feeling anxious, drained, and full of doubt. But I don't know why. How can I tell if someone carries hidden evil?" The monk slowly opened his eyes and offered a calm, knowing smile. "Evil," he said gently, "rarely roars. It whispers. It wears masks, but it always leaves footprints. And if you observe with clarity, those signs are always there." He paused and added, "Let me tell you the 9 signs. These are not for judgment, but for protection, for clarity, for peace. Sign 1, they take pleasure in the suffering of others." The monk spoke softly, yet his words carried weight. A person with evil in their heart feels joy when others suffer. They do not lend a helping hand. They offer a smirk. They find amusement in another's pain, and their silence becomes a weapon. He then shared a tale. A hard-working farmer once lost all his crops in a devastating flood. As he wept, his neighbor came by, offering words of comfort, but secretly he was celebrating. In the neighbor's heart, the farmer's tragedy felt like his own victory. In time, the farmer rebuilt his life with resilience and faith. But the neighbor, lost in his hidden joy at others' pain, eventually found himself lonely and bitter, isolated by his own coldness. In Buddhism, the monk continued, this is the absence of metta, loving kindness. Without it, the soul rots in jealousy. The Buddha taught us that true peace is found in celebrating others' joy. So observe closely. If someone cannot be happy for you, that's a sign. Sign 2. They speak lies and gossip. The monk's gaze deepened. An evil person's tongue, he said, is sharper than any sword. They twist words. They plant distrust. They feast on division. The monk's voice softened, yet his words carried a sharp clarity. There was once a young disciple, he began, who lived with honesty in his heart. But one day, a rumor crept through the monastery walls, a whisper born not of truth, but of envy. An envious peer, blinded by jealousy, accused the disciple of theft. Though innocent, the young one was cast under suspicion. Whispers turned to isolation. Shame stained his days. His eyes no longer met others with ease, and his once joyful spirit dulled. But, as time passed, truth surfaced like a lotus rising from muddy water. The disciple's name was cleared. The real source of the rumor, the envious accuser, was exposed and forever marked by disgrace. Their name, once respected, was now followed by silence and side glances. The monk turned to the traveler beside him and said, "In Zen, we are taught right speech. This means refraining from slander, gossip, and lies. Words can be medicine or poison. Those who twist the truth or stir division reveal the darkness they carry inside. Be mindful, if someone thrives on spreading rumors, they are not to be trusted. Their words may charm, but their intent corrodes." Sign 3. They manipulate and control. The monk leaned forward slightly. "There's another sign," he continued, "and it's far more subtle. An evil person doesn't always shout or strike. Sometimes they control, gently, invisibly, like a spider weaving a quiet trap." He told the story of a merchant and his apprentice. The apprentice, young and eager, had once borrowed a small amount of money. The merchant never let him forget it. Day after day, he reminded the boy of the debt, not just in words, but in glances, in silence, in guilt. Over time, the apprentice lost his confidence. He became timid, afraid to make decisions, afraid even to leave. He was no longer learning, no longer growing, only surviving under the weight of quiet control. It was only when he gathered the courage to confront the merchant and walk away that he reclaimed his life. In Buddhism, the monk said, this is the poison of attachment, the desire to control, to bind others. True love, true connection, never imprisons. The Dhammapada teaches, freedom is found not in holding on, but in letting go. If someone in your life constantly guilts you, pressures you, or twists situations to benefit themselves, be aware. That is not love. That is a trap. Sign 4. They are envious and resentful. The monk sighed, his eyes reflecting a quiet sadness. Envy, he said, is the root of much suffering. It eats away at joy like rust on metal. A person poisoned by envy cannot celebrate another's success. Instead, they wilt in their own bitterness. He told of 2 craftsmen. One, after years of labor, created a breathtaking sculpture, a piece that stirred admiration from everyone who saw it. But his rival, consumed by jealousy, could not bear it. In the shadows, the rival tried to damage the masterpiece, but in doing so, he shattered more than stone. His reputation, once respected, began to crumble. His hands, once gifted, lost their steadiness. His heart had become his undoing. In Zen, the monk explained, we are taught upekkha, equanimity, to walk our own path without comparing it to others. Envy comes from a restless mind and a heart that lacks peace. Watch for those who belittle your success, who always compete, who cannot compliment without bitterness. That resentment is not just personal, it's a sign of deeper malice. Sign 5. They lack empathy. The monk paused, letting the silence speak. Then gently he said, true evil often shows itself not in action, but in absence, the absence of empathy. A person without compassion can look you in the eyes and feel nothing for your suffering. He shared a quiet tale. a poor beggar, shivering in the rain, knocked on the door of a grand house. The wealthy man inside glanced once and turned him away. "Not my problem," he muttered. That night, the storm raged. Lightning struck. The wealthy man's home was destroyed. Drenched and desperate, he wandered the same streets, and it was the very beggar, now sheltered beneath a bridge, who offered him a place to rest. "Karuna," the monk said, "is the heart of Buddhist practice. Compassion is the bridge between souls. When someone shows no concern for others' pain, mocks it, ignores it, or believes it's deserved, they've stepped far from the path of humanity." He let his words settle like falling leaves. "These are just 5 of the 9 signs," the monk added softly. "Each one a thread in the fabric of darkness, but also a lesson in how to protect your spirit." Sign 6. They exploit others. The monk's brow furrowed slightly as he spoke. "One of the clearest signs of evil," he said, "is exploitation. These people don't see others as fellow beings with hearts and hopes. They see them as tools, resources, means to an end." He told the story of a wealthy trader, well known in his town for his booming business. But what the world didn't see was the cost behind his success. His workers were underpaid, overworked, and constantly belittled. He promised them opportunities but never delivered. Grateful for any income, they stayed. Until one day, they couldn't bear it anymore and left in silence. Without them, the trader's empire crumbled. Customers left, suppliers withdrew, and soon the once busy market stalls stood empty. Only then did he begin to reflect on the hands that had built his wealth, hands he never respected. "In Buddhism," the monk said, "we are taught right livelihood, to earn without causing harm. Exploiting others creates suffering, for them and for you. And karma, like a shadow, always follows. If someone uses your kindness, your time, or your skills without gratitude or fairness, beware, their motives are not pure." Sign 7. They refuse accountability. The monk's eyes narrowed slightly. "Another sign," he continued, "is the refusal to own one's mistakes. An evil person will twist the truth, point fingers, and walk away while others pay for their actions." He shared the tale of a dishonest scribe who worked in the records hall of a monastery. One day, in an effort to cover up an error, he altered official documents, and when the change was discovered, he quickly blamed a young novice working beside him. The novice was brought forward for questioning, but his honesty, composure, and clarity revealed the truth. The elders saw through the lies. The novice was honored, and the scribe, once trusted, was dismissed in shame. "To grow spiritually," the monk said, "we must embrace truth, even when it's painful. In Buddhist ethics, integrity means accepting responsibility. Those who always shift, blame not only harm others, they block their own path to growth." Sign 8. They isolate you. The monk's tone now turned solemn. Evil does not always strike from the front. Sometimes it whispers in your ear, urging you to step away from those who love you. It isolates you, not with force, but with subtlety. He told of a young woman with a close friend who always seemed concerned, too concerned. "Don't waste time dating," the friend would say. "Those people aren't good for you. Why chase that dream? You'll only be disappointed." At first, the woman believed the words were protective, but as months passed, she realized she had stopped meeting others, abandoned her passions, and felt increasingly alone, except for this one friend, who now controlled every part of her world. When she finally distanced herself and reached out to others again, joy returned to her life. "In Zen," the monk said, "we honor Sangha, the community. Connection is sacred. Beware of those who isolate you, who chip away at your support systems. True friends open doors, not lock them. Sign 9. They drain your energy. The monk looked deeply at the traveler. Lastly, he said, pay attention to how you feel after being with someone. If your spirit feels heavy, if your thoughts become clouded, you may be in the presence of someone who feeds on your energy. He shared this image. A traveler, lost and burdened, came to a monk for help. He poured out his worries, complaints, and fears. But instead of being overwhelmed, the monk listened with calm, like a still lake reflecting a storm without becoming one. "Why are you not troubled by my pain?" the traveler asked. The monk replied, "Because I do not absorb your darkness, I turn it into light." In Buddhism, the monk said now, we guard our energy through mindfulness. We do not let others pull us into their chaos. If someone leaves you drained, anxious, or constantly unsettled, set boundaries. Your energy is sacred. Protect it. The monk finished speaking, and silence returned between them. But it was no longer empty. It was full of understanding. The traveler stood up slowly, his mind swirling with insight. But then, as he began to walk away, a question tugged at his heart, unresolved and persistent. He turned back and knelt once more. "Master," he asked humbly, "I understand now how to recognize these people. But what do I do when I meet them? Should I confront them? Avoid them? Or is there a way to help them change?" The monk smiled gently, as if he had been waiting for this very question. "That," he said, "is a question of great depth. Let me show you 3 paths, each one a different way of responding, based on the person and on your own heart's capacity." The traveler had asked the question that lingered in every listener's heart. What should I do when I meet someone who carries darkness within them? The monk responded with a gentle nod, and now he began to share the 3 mindful paths one can walk. The first path, compassionate detachment. The monk folded his hands and spoke calmly. "The first path," he said, "is compassionate detachment. It means you recognize the presence of darkness in another, but you do not allow it to enter your own heart. You offer kindness, but you also draw a clear boundary." He told the story of a kind-hearted teacher who had a student known for constant disruptions. While others grew angry or frustrated, the teacher remained centered. He didn't react with hostility. He simply watched, listened, and responded with compassion. Over time, the teacher came to understand that the student wasn't malicious. He was hurt. His misbehavior stemmed from wounds unseen, from insecurities deeply rooted. The teacher didn't excuse the actions, but instead of punishing or rejecting the student, he gently encouraged him to seek help. A seed of transformation was quietly planted. In Buddhism, the monk explained, compassion is not blind tolerance. It is the courage to face harm with wisdom, to respond without hate, and to protect without bitterness. If the negative person is someone you must interact with, a colleague, a family member, or a neighbor, you do not have to let them into your inner world. Be kind, but firm. Keep your peace intact. Remember, true compassion includes boundaries. The second path, walk away in silence. The monk's voice lowered into a thoughtful pause. "There is a second path," he continued. "Sometimes silence is the most powerful response. When someone is completely consumed by their negativity, even your kindness will be twisted. In such cases, the wisest action is to walk away." He recounted a tale of a wise potter who worked with an assistant notorious for criticizing every move. The potter, however, never fought back. He didn't argue, didn't defend. He simply continued shaping clay in peace. Then, one morning, he packed up and quietly left for another village. In his new home, the potter flourished. His work gained admiration, and his spirit felt light. Meanwhile, the bitter assistant, left behind, soon realized his own toxicity and began the long path toward change. Zen teaches, the monk said, that not every battle is worth fighting. Silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. If someone constantly drains your energy and refuses to change, walking away preserves your soul. And sometimes, your absence becomes their mirror. So if confrontation feels futile, leave. Do it quietly, and trust that peace will follow. The third path, reflect and offer guidance. The monk looked at the traveler with a slight smile. The third path, he said, is the most difficult, but also the most transformative. If the person shows willingness to change, reflect their behavior back to them with gentleness and offer guidance. He shared the story of a blacksmith, a man of great talent but also great temper. One day, a traveler watched him work and then softly said, "Your fire shapes metal, but it also burns everything around you. If you learn to control your flame, you'll not only forge tools, you'll forge trust." Those words struck something deep within the blacksmith. That night, he sat in stillness, and in the days that followed, he began to meditate. Over time, his anger softened, and his craft became not just respected, but revered. In Zen, the monk explained, we follow a paya, skillful means. We adjust our approach to each situation. If someone truly listens, if they open even a crack of willingness, your words can become light. But always observe first. Are they defensive or curious? If the answer is the latter, speak with care, but release your attachment to the result. Their transformation is not your burden. The traveler listened in silence, soaking in every word. Then, with a heart full of awe, he asked one final question, perhaps the most important of all. "Master, now that I know how to respond to evil in others, how do I ensure I don't become that kind of person myself? How do I guard my own heart against darkness?" The monk's eyes softened, as if he'd been waiting for this question all along. "That," he said gently, "is the most essential wisdom of all. Evil doesn't only come from the outside, it rises from within if we don't stay awake. To guard your heart, you must cultivate the inner virtues that naturally repel darkness." He paused, then offered the first of 4 practices. "Embrace mindfulness. Distraction," the monk said, "is the gateway through which evil enters. But mindfulness, true presence, is your shield. When you are mindful," he explained, "you see clearly. You act wisely. You make choices that reflect your highest self, not your impulses. Set time aside each day, even just a few quiet moments, to sit with yourself. Observe your thoughts. Watch your emotions as they rise and fall. Don't judge them. Simply notice and let them pass. A calm mind," he said, "is like still water. No storm can stir it deeply, and from that stillness, goodness blooms." The monk had spoken of the power of mindfulness, a shield that guards the heart from darkness. Now, he gently revealed 3 more practices to nourish the soul and prevent evil from taking root within. Cultivate compassion. Compassion, the monk said softly, is the antidote to evil. Where there is compassion, malice cannot survive. He leaned slightly forward, as if sharing a sacred truth. When your heart is filled with love, empathy, and understanding, darkness finds no place to rest. Choose acts of kindness, no matter how small. A warm smile, a helping hand, or a sincere apology can ripple farther than you know. He paused and added, "Forgiveness, too, is an act of compassion. But remember, forgiving does not mean tolerating harm. It means freeing your heart from the chains of anger, choosing not to carry hate even when others choose cruelty." The traveler nodded slowly, feeling the weight and lightness of those words at once. "Practice humility." The monk continued. "Ego," he said, "is the seedbed of much suffering. The need to be right, to be better than others, to prove one's worth. These are the illusions that open the door to darkness." He told a simple story. A proud scholar once visited a monastery full of knowledge but empty of wonder. As the abbot poured tea into his cup, he didn't stop. The tea overflowed, spilling everywhere. The scholar cried out, "It's full." "Yes," the abbot replied, "and like your mind, it cannot receive anything new unless it is emptied first." The monk looked into the traveler's eyes. Approach life not as a master, but as a student. Be curious, be open, admit when you're wrong, learn from your missteps. In Buddhism, true strength lies not in superiority, but in surrendering the ego to the path of growth. Express gratitude. The monk smiled gently. "And finally," he said, "gratitude. Gratitude transforms the heart. When you truly appreciate what you have, your breath, your body, your relationships, your journey, envy fades. Bitterness dissolves. The heart shifts from scarcity to abundance." He encouraged the traveler to begin a simple practice. Each evening, write down 3 things you're grateful for, or just pause for a moment and give thanks, even for the smallest things. A warm meal, a kind word, the sun on your face. Gratitude, he said, is like sunlight for the soul. It helps joy bloom where sorrow once grew. The monk gently placed his hand on the traveler's shoulder. "Do not fear evil," he said. "Recognize it, learn from it, and guard your own spirit against becoming it. That is the path of true wisdom." The traveler bowed deeply, his heart no longer clouded with confusion, but glowing with quiet confidence. As he walked away, the monk's teachings became like a lantern in his mind, lighting each step, guiding him forward through life's shadows. Back in the Zen garden, the monk returned to his meditation. The wind moved gently through the trees, and the stream whispered its eternal rhythm, a quiet reminder that all things pass and that peace is always possible. Thank you so much for watching. We hope this story brought you insight and inspiration. Subscribe now to Buddhism Seeds for more peaceful wisdom and uplifting stories. Just click the subscribe button below and tap the notification bell so you won't miss a single update. Have thoughts or questions? Share them in the comments. We love hearing from you. Like, share, and help spread the light. See you in the next video. Until then, stay mindful, stay kind, and let your heart remain pure.